Friday, May
May
1st.
1st. It's
Friday, May
MayDay.
1st.
Oh, you
It's
know what? That's
May.
something we could talk about since it's MayDay. Did you, being a teacher, this is a topic that does not make me happy. I didn't even know about it. Thankfully, I didn't hear about it anywhere in my area, but I did hear about it online. School districts are closing down, so teachers and students can go protest our president and our government again. And they're calling it MayDay. MayDay protests. Have you heard anything about this?
No, I have not heard anything about this.
Excellent. I love that you haven't heard anything about that. Here's what I've heard about it. So like we're talking like, a lot of school districts in North Carolina did it, but it's like the big cities, whatever, Chicago's doing it, whatever, and they're having it's no kinks, but it's called Mayday. So one, that's stupid because we like to call this all performative. So what was did you watch The Handmaid's Tale?
No,
It's actually really good. I know it's supposed to be for chicks, but it's really good.
I turned it
Um,
off. Got bored of it.
well, okay, you got bored of it, whatever. But their whole
Mm,
the way they're like their underground railroad, their pipeline to freedom was called Mayday.
mm.
So that's why they're calling it Mayday today. That's why they did it today. I think it's disgusting to allow kids to come out of school to go protest. So if we don't want to give, as teachers, if we don't want to give the impression that we're indoctrinating, then how about we not close schools for a government protest? Might be a good idea.
Yeah, well, I can tell you this. I'm not familiar with this protest, but I can tell you right before I jumped on, I had a meeting and then I didn't have time to kind of see what's happening in the world since I got out of the meeting. But I did see on X Data Republican talking about the funding behind this May 1st event, and of course, it's the same usual cast of characters: Soros and Neville Roy Singham once
Yep,
again,
sing them.
and I do know that, and again, because I wasn't sure about this, the teachers union, like the NDEE or I forget what.
The two big teachers unions are the National Educators Association, NEA, and the AFT, the American Federation of Teachers.
So maybe it's the NEA. That sounds
Mhm.
right. There's an African American woman who's the head of it. I don't know if you know what her name is.
That's the union I'm supposed to be a part of, but I'm not.
Yeah.
So I don't know who's the head of it, and I could care less.
All right. Well, here's the point: is that she has pledged allegiance to the movement, and I did some research a while back where if you go in this school teacher union page, it is an activism page. It's all calls for activism. So when these parents are saying, "How is it these teachers are allowing for these kids to do walkouts a couple months ago?" That's because it was orchestrated by the teachers. So I'm not surprised about this. And here's the deal: is that you're going to start to see. You remember 2020, the summer of 2020? I think you're going to start to see things ramp up big time. There's going to be a lot of activism. You just saw somebody
Oh,
tried to kill the president.
yes.
I was
We're in for a wild summer, man.
so, let me see how I can say this. I know that there are communiques that have been put out there and that have made it into the White House that there are people in high positions of government out west who have been saying that don't worry, not necessarily high positions of government, but high positions in politics. Don't worry, Trump won't be around another 2 weeks. So they were
Really?
accurately, yeah. So they're starting to investigate some prior knowledge of confidence that this stuff was going to be going on. So he's really, really being effective. He's getting a lot done. He's getting a lot done. You aren't paying attention, not you, but if people aren't paying attention to, Susan Kokinda said it great the other day, primary sources. Stop listening to people's opinions of what's going on. Go to the White House app and read the press releases and see what they're doing. He's effectively dismantling the old system and rebuilding the new American system.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
therefore, they are trying
USAID
to
and the
stop it.
USAID and the tariff systems were the first step in a new economic system. Absolutely. 100%.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the thing is that USAID was the bank for the NGOs, and the NGOs were the way for the fraud. And
Mm.
he's dismantling that, and then everything that's happened in Iran and all that. He's being real effective. Did you hear what he said when he was talking about how he studied assassinations? He talked about how he
Yeah.
studied assassinations, and he said the only ones who they attempt to assassinate are the ones who make a difference.
Yeah, but that's easily chalked up to like, no one's going to deny Trump's ego. I don't care if you like him or not. He's got an enormous ego, which I still believe is a requirement to be this powerful and this effective. But
Mhm.
that easily could have been, bravado. And you know what I mean? I agree with you.
But he's not
I,
wrong.
No, he's not. He's being effective. I agree that he's being effective.
Yeah, going back to the assassination thing,
Okay.
one of the things that I've been paying attention to a lot lately is this Promethean action and everything these guys have been doing. And one of the things that they're talking about is how, um, the term capitalism kind of, and I can't vet this, but it makes sense, is that it didn't come around until the Marx, Karl Marx. Before that, they were talking about the American system, and they've wiped out the American system. One of the guys that was a big pusher of the American system, which is instead of the British imperial system, was Alexander Hamilton.
Yeah.
You know, they shot him. He got assassinated.
But isn't he black and like a leftist superhero?
Isn't that funny how they do that? Isn't that funny how they do that? They turn him around into something that he wasn't.
Again, I'm a music teacher and I couldn't get through 20 minutes of that musical. I hate
I
it.
never bothered to try.
It's not worth
I
it.
knew
It's
what
not
I
worth it.
knew what that was. I knew what that was when it came out. That whole thing was just not. But
Well,
anyway,
theater people still think it's innovative to rap in a musical. They still think it's new and hip. I know it's disgusting. Whatever. Yeah.
yeah, no, I can't get into that. But and then another one that I was thinking about is McKinley was another one who was assassinated, and he was pushing the
Hmm.
American system, and all of a sudden that makes sense as to why Barack Obama changed Mount McKinley to Mount Denali. It's erasing history. It's
Yeah.
erasing
Oh,
history.
we've had a lot of that in the past 20 years, and it's
Hmm. Hmm.
disgusting. And so I like the restoration of history that's been
Hence
going
why they're
on.
trying to kill him. That's why they're trying to kill him.
Hmm.
They're
Yeah.
trying to kill him because of that. And then another thing we can talk about is, do you have any feedback on the king coming to America?
Feedback on it. Look. So here's my thought on the King comment, and I am loving watching this whole interaction between Trump and Prince and King Charles. Keep wanting to call him Prince Charles. It's been forever.
Our whole
So
life, yeah.
whereas we would have expected him to reject King Charles because of everything that's going on in the UK right under his nose. Just just what they're handling socially, the way they're handling their freedom of speech has gone into the toilet. Like you can get arrested for a bad tweet, for the allowance of mass migration, for the exceptions that are being made for, say, like Muslim people over British naturals or not natural nationals. What you know what I'm talking about, like the
Mm,
native
mm,
British population. So you would think that Trump would have been like, and I don't want to have anything to do with you. Instead, they were best friends. Like the internet was hilarious because they're like, you can't have British soldiers on the White House grounds. That's an insult. They put on a little show for each other. They put on this patriot. You saw like the Revolutionary soldiers and the British soldiers, and it was a nice gesture. Prince Charles was not insulted, not at all. They were ribbing each other about, like, I think Trump made a crack about how we, without world, you, if it wasn't for us, you'd all be speaking German. So on the next speech, King Charles comes out like, well, I would argue that if it wasn't for us, you'd all be speaking French. I love this interaction. It's almost like they're best friends, two powerful people interacting, ribbing each other and having fun. Almost, it's weird to see Trump operate on a level footing. You know what I mean?
mhm.
So I was surprised by that. So leads me to believe that he knows something we don't about the king and England. I don't know what that is.
So I read it completely different.
Okay.
I read it completely different. This is the first time that the king has insulted himself to come across the Atlantic to go address his subjects instead of having his subjects come to him. He had to come here to America, where Trump rolled out a whole bunch of revolutionary redcoats and
Oh,
made
come on. It
it,
was
yeah,
cute.
and he absolutely was mocking the fact that he is completely and utterly obliterating and dismantling their system on the 250th anniversary of us getting away from their empire. And it's the signs of the last little bits of those tentacles of the Hydra getting cut across the Atlantic to us and showing that our true independence is hitting in this year. And I've never seen a monarch behave so snarky before, and he was
I
super
didn't
duper
I didn't
snarky.
take it. I didn't take it as that.
I say he never would have said the French line if it wasn't in response and in reaction, you know? And the thing is that the monarch is supposed to be above that kind of stuff, but this dude was
Modern
absolutely,
monarch.
you know, yeah, yeah, like the modern pope who's like meeting up with Muslims, you know, it's like it's counter to what you're supposed to be doing. You know, he's not the he's the cool hip Hamilton king. No, that's not what it is. It's not what it is. It's not what it is. You know, and he's
I'm sorry.
going to
I'm trying to picture King Charles doing some hip hop dancing now.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, it's
yeah. I
no,
said
no,
a
no,
hip,
no,
a
no, no.
hop, a hip. Yeah, but anyway, but
Hoobity
here's the other
hobbity
thing
hip
is,
hip hobbity.
but then he goes to Congress and he tries to
Monarch's
kick off.
delight.
Imagine that thing. Imagine that thing. I can't freestyle. I can't freestyle. But anyway,
That's all right. We'll put that
he
together
goes
later.
he goes to Congress and he tries to pull us into World War III. You know, he goes to Congress and tries to pull us into World War III. And
How?
Congress
What, by declaring that we should be all be supporting Ukraine? That comment?
absolutely supporting Ukraine against Russia. If we go into Ukraine, that kicks off America, Russia, which is
Oh,
what they want. That's why he's here. He's looking at Congress, who won't stand for the president, who will suck his you know what. Sorry, it infuriates me that they stand for the foreign monarch when he says, you guys need to go to World War III. And they're like, yeah, Ukraine. Meanwhile, they're like, Iran is horrible, but Ukraine is great. Ukraine is great, but I mean, the hypocrisy is ridiculous. So no, I don't think that
well,
this is a pleasant visit at all. I think that this was an attempt to try and well, here, let's go to this.
hold on, hold on. Okay, let me
okay,
get in on that. Like, I
yep,
understand. I did catch that speech, or most. I didn't watch the whole speech, but I did catch the Ukraine crack. I just took it as he's speaking his mind because why shouldn't he? He's the leader of, well, he's not a leader, but he's the leader of Great Britain. So you just wanted to mention that. I do respect the fact that there is no World War III without us. There is no global anything without us. There most certainly isn't a World War III without dragging us in against Russia, period. And I understand that that's a goal, but I blew it off. I mean, as soon as he said it, I'm like, oh yeah, of course he's going to mention Ukraine, and I blew it off just as such because it's not going to get any traction. It's not going to bring us to war. We're not going. They have to get rid of
that's
the
not
entire
something that
everything.
you blow off. That's the king addressing Congress and saying, "Let's go to war with Ukraine. Join us in war to Ukraine." Is not a small thing. Not when Congress is stand up and clap it like, "Oh,
Oh,
king, you're incredible." You know what I mean?
puppets. Who
Well,
cares?
yeah, that's the thing is that, and then people are like, oh no. They're here's the deal is that they're saying that no kings because they don't want a king in America, but they're okay with the king over there. It's like, okay, so kings for other people is okay, but kings for us is no good. So they don't care about the Brits, but then they're gonna bow to this man. You don't want that because when the king is telling Congress this is what you need to do, and Congress is clapping, that's the type of stuff that affects votes. That's not something to overlook. And the thing
Okay.
is I want to cite this House of Lords report, you know, that came out a couple days ago. Yeah, I'm going to cite the House of Lords report. Now, I have
Oh
some.
yeah. Good to cite the
Oh
House of
yeah,
Lords.
I'm going to cite the House of Lords. Here come the Lords. But anyway, um, so here's the deal: the House of Lords International Relations and Defense Committee report of 2020. 6/22 April, adjusting to new realities, rebalancing the US UK partnership. It formally concedes a structural fact obscured for 70 years. The post 1945 rule based order cannot operate without an enforcing United States, and the Trump administration is no longer that partner. So, what it is saying is that the policies of this current administration are such that they are exposed because they've allowed their military to deplete because they've expected that America was always going to be there.
Yep.
And now Trump is saying we're not going to be there. And they're going, uh-oh, they're exposed. So that's a big issue. But the key thing I took when reading this report is that a lot of times you'll hear these, when you talk about the deep state, what the deep state does is they'll wait out a president. You know, like we've talked about this
Oh,
before. They know the president's going to be around for 4 years. They would just
that's
sit back and wait and then come out afterwards.
yeah.
This House of
That's the current Iran posture. Yes.
That's and that yeah, well, Iran's trying to wait it out. Meanwhile, if they wait it out any longer, the oil refineries are gonna go kaput, and
They've
they
got a
really are gonna.
yeah, they've got a hypersonic middle missile pointed at them right now.
Y
All right, back to
yeah,
the House of
yeah.
Lords.
So anyway, the House of Lords was talking about how these policies are going to last longer than Trump. This is not something that they have to wait out. So they are rebalancing. So this is a priority. This is coming to House of Lords through Chatham House, which is the main think tank that
Hmm.
pretty much just Chatham House basically just stuff comes out of Chatham House as a recommendation and then Parliament pushes it through.
So Chatham
You
House
know,
runs Great Britain, is what you're saying.
yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, there's more to it than that, but I would say the Chatham House holds more weight.
oversimplified.
Chatham House holds more weight than any of the MPs,
Okay.
than the members of
Hmm.
parliament. But anyway, um, so with that coming out, and that's the thing that they're not going to tell you. They're not going to tell you on the news. Like I had a radical leftist lunatic last week on my Facebook say King Charles just schooled Trump on checks and balances because they're not going to tell that person about the House of Lords report. They're going to tell he schooled them on checks and balances. And you're right, Iran is bad, and you are correct that Ukraine was right. And they all go, you see, I told you that's what the news said. Meanwhile, in the background, the part that you were talking about, they know something. This is the part that most of the people out there don't know about.
Hmm. Right. Well, as usual, we're going to wait and see. I just don't see, no matter I don't no matter who's walking in front of Congress, whether it was that little man begging for money from Ukraine or big King Charles that's telling, "Oh, we need to support Ukraine." It's not going to happen. It is absolutely not. They got to wait another 2.5, 3 years before they can make that happen. And by then, it ain't going to happen.
It's going to be done way before that.
Oh yeah.
They're in the process of it right now.